Start recording. I don't know why it's being so goofy. Touching my face.
In this video, I'll show you how to set up and manage live streams in YouTube.
I don't want that. I just want to watch the video. Oh, it's telling me a goofy thing. Okay. We're going. Go to my video. We are live. I want the chat. Give me the chat. Give me the volume. I want the chat. Give me the chat. Give me the volume. Alright. I want volume output. The chat. Give me the chat. Give me the volume. I want volume output. The chat. Give me the chat. Give me the volume. Alright. I want volume output. Okay. Let's make it happen. And getting things rolling. Oh, cables. That's not. There we go. We have this. Chat is going. It's being goofy. This may be one of those things that not everyone's here for, but we're gonna talk about a variety of things, hang out for a little while, and see where everything is at. And depending on if this is popular or not, testing a new microphone, testing a new setup. But if this isn't popular being relative to more, are you engaging with me? Are you hanging out? Are you asking questions? Similar to AMAs we have done in the past, if that's what's going on, then we'll just stay here for a while, and at least an hour, so until 5 my time, so an hour from now, just answering questions and hanging out, and I will be talking about various things as we go, because I am sure there are a variety of questions that people may have for any number of things. It could be game-related questions, it could be upcoming project-related questions. Whatever those questions may be, ask them. But the first thing that I will talk about right now is our Welcome Back bundle that we did for stores. We've done a variety of different options as COVID has started. So we did a, hey, if you place an order with our online store, let us know what your local store is, and we will donate 50% as if they had given us a wholesale order. And that was still pretty popular, but not everybody has claimed their donations. So if you are a retailer and you are curious, like, check your spam, check otherwise. We put out a list that I will happily link again. Once the video is done, we'll go back through, put all the relevant links in. But if you're on that list and we haven't heard from you, we'd love to, so that we can actually make sure that those customers of yours who donated, make sure the money gets to you. Then we did a bundle similar to what we do at trade shows like Gamma or otherwise, which is big, thick bundle, extra percentages off, all sorts of things. And then right now we were doing a big bundle for retailers where they could spend $100 and get a bunch of stuff to help with reopening, because we know a number of states and otherwise are entering what people are calling phase 1. Out here in Portland, Oregon, that's happening as well. We're really excited to see our locals like Red Castle Games reopening, even if it's just curbside pickup. We know that Mock Sporting House has a new location down here in Portland that is opening soon, if it hasn't opened already. So shout out to all you wonderful folks. And yeah, hello Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us again. If you have questions, let me know. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm testing out a new studio mic. Welcome to my bedroom / office space studio. You can probably see my pillows in the background. But if you can't hear me for whatever reason, me saying this isn't going to help you, so that's not very good. But retailer stuff, wanted to get that out of the way first, mostly because I'm going to be talking a lot about a variety of different subjects, just so that we can kind of have a recap as to everything that's been going on with Japanime games. We have had a number of Kickstarters already this year. We have some more lined up. The next one being Tokyo Sidekick, which I'll talk about more in depth, depending on questions, probably about halfway through the intended streaming time. So I want to dedicate a decent amount of time to that subject. But let's see what else we have to talk about right now that may be important. Let's talk about those other Kickstarters. And let's start with just getting things open. Let's talk about Bessem, or Big Eye Small Mouth, for those who do not know. We just put out 3 updates today on a variety of Kickstarters: Bessem, Tanto, and Testament. Bessem being one of the ones that was further back in the queue. Things are starting to ship from the manufacturer, as noted in the newest update. We've confirmed shipping numbers. They are not necessarily shipping just yet, but they are in motion, which is better than they were before that point. So if you've booked, if you pledged for the Bessem Kickstarter, that air freight is going to start moving. As Heather put in the update, there's about 50 people, which is not the biggest number, but it's also not the smallest number, given that there were almost 1,700 people that backed that Kickstarter. 50 people have not confirmed their orders at this point, so make sure that your orders are confirmed so that your shipments are not delayed, because we want to get these things into your hands as quick as possible, and we want to be on top of actually delivering. So make sure that that is being taken care of, you wonderful folks who are out there. Next up, we have Testament, which is important to talk about as well. Testament was another cooperative game that we did earlier this year, back in February. It is a cooperative JRPG style board game where you are going to be going down into the Ark, or dungeon in this case, with your team, trying to get down to the deepest level and defeat the man-made god known as Testament. You'll be leveling up heroes. You get to choose what skills you put on them. It's heavily inspired by JRPG style, games. So things like Final Fantasy XIV, things like that. But we have digital proofs coming in. If you haven't had a chance to check those out, I'm going to include a link in the chat right now where you can see what the standees are starting to look like, or at least what the first proofs on those standees may look like. They are more of waist up, as you can't see my hands, waist up style standees. We've got a couple of different options that we're looking at, so you can see what those might look like, why they're looking the way they are. But this is the fun part of the process, where things are going back and forth. We're having a lot of communications on the back end, and we're getting to actually make sure that the files that have been submitted when they go to print actually look like what they're supposed to look like. And that's always an exciting part, at least for me, when you start to peel back the veil of the publisher / manufacturing product process. Ooh, I'm having trouble with words today. You get to start seeing these things where it may be something as simple as like, hey, we submitted the files when they were printed. This is 1, 2, 3 millimeters or centimeters off. It's not going to fit in the box correctly, which could be a really interesting process. That's not what happened. That is not what is happening here, but it's something you can see where you're like, oh man, this doesn't look the way it's supposed to once it actually goes to print. How can we resolve that? And so it's a little bit of back and forth, making sure the box is working, making sure the components are working, and making sure that it's the best product that we can actually put into your hands once it's done. So those are the kinds of things we look for. Again, if you have any questions, please ask. Part of what I'm here for is to actually answer questions to the best of my ability. If you haven't done an AMA with me before, haven't seen me before, I'm Jackson Wood. I'm the marketing and convention coordinator for Japanime Games. And so I do a lot of weird stuff. I work with Heather on a lot of things to make sure that we are providing the best experience we can for you in our social media experiences, our convention experiences, whatever they may be. That's a lot of what I do. But I will always try to answer your questions. I may not answer them directly, and if I do, I will typically tell you something along the lines of, hey, I can't talk about that right now, but here is what I can actually talk about on that subject, or here's why I can't talk about that right now. So, again, ask your questions. I see that there's a couple of you watching. Myself is one of them, because I like to make sure things are actually doing what they're supposed to do, and so I can see the chat. But, talked about Testament, talked about Bessem. We have some other things that are going to be interesting coming up. We have virtual conventions coming up. We missed the Board Game Geek window, which is 100% on me. But we're looking into doing a Japanime game style weekend where we do online demos of things. So we may do that through Tabletop Simulator, which is a barrier for entry for some of you, unfortunately. We have some things on Tabletopia. So a couple of people got to hang out with us for an anime convention a couple of weeks back and play Cowboy Bebop on Tabletopia. So if that's something that sounds fun to you, let me know in the chat so I can get more things ready for you. We also have Team Japanime on the digital side of things who are able to run demos. So if you have somebody in your part of the world, maybe your local game store or otherwise, that did demos and you'd like to do a demo with them, have them reach out to me so that I can get them the login credentials, or at least the lobby credentials if it's Tabletopia, to make sure that they can do that with you. Because we want to make sure that you're able to try our games and play our games and get a feeling for what's going on. So that's another big project, is just putting a lot of games on a virtual tabletop so that you can actually try them out this summer. Especially because you're not going to get to see us at shows, which is for everybody's safety. What is next on my list? I'm trying not to jump through everything super quick because we are here for about an hour, like I said, unless you all engage with me. So if you want to have your questions answered, if you want to know about upcoming projects, if you want to know about current projects, now is the time to ask in the chat. If you don't ask me questions, I can't really answer them, and I'm just going to talk about whatever I feel like talking about, which could be anything. Probably board game related. Let's see. In terms of some cool plugs, I am really great friends with a lot of the people over at Deepwater Games, or Oxeye Media, depending on how you approach them. They just picked up 3 new products that they helped publishers, or designers rather, they are a publisher, designers pick up that were having production issues or fulfillment issues. So that's a really cool thing. If any of those games were on your radar, definitely go check out what they've got going on, just because they're good friends of ours and we want to help support our friends and make sure that the cool stuff that they're doing gets seen. Talked about the retailer stuff. Again, if you have retailers that are reopening, please let them know that we are happy to try and figure out what we can do to help them. We've been doing a variety of different offerings, and we just want to help in the best way we can, given the model that exists. Again, we're going to talk about Tokyo Sidekick probably in about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll just be talking about that for however long it takes me to talk about that while I actually have people's attention. Let's see. What else right now? That is the next big project. We have something secretive in the works. I can't talk about it yet. Eric did a teaser for it during the Tanto Kure Kickstarter, 10th Anniversary Edition Kickstarter. So if you don't know what that's about, you still won't get to know what that's about, unfortunately, for everyone else. Just because we cannot announce it just yet. But it has to do not directly with the art books that he was looking at, but something associated. Just going through all of my notes. We could talk about Tanto for a bit. Again, you have all been amazing. We are so surprised at how successful that Kickstarter has been. It was phenomenal to see the response that you all gave. Again, amazing. $267,000 and change. $267,414 altogether, with $2,509 in regards to backer numbers. Easily one of our most successful Kickstarters to date. Any news on the other Domina games, Rawl? That's not something we can talk about right now, but I would like to say that hopefully you will be pleasantly surprised in the future. Is it Rawl or Roll? I'd love to make sure that I'm saying the name correctly. And I don't want to be rude. And you've always been like a pleasure to converse with on all of the media that you decide to engage with us on. But I think, again, with the Domino stuff, you'll be pleasantly surprised. It's not anything I can get too deep into right now. But we will have news on that probably by the end of the year. It's not one of our upcoming projects. Cool. Thank you for that. I just want to make sure. I don't like goofing up anybody's names. Nobody wants that. Please go ahead and keep asking questions. But Tanto stuff, we have received a number of cool art assets from people in regards to those sweeper maids for the digital version. And we're really excited to work with those people to make those things happen and actually pay them for the art that they have made, because that's something that we actually like to do. What else? We talked about it a little while back. If you know any content creators, especially from underrepresented groups or people of color, we'd love to hear from them. We know that everybody is reaching out to those folks, and it is something that I actively endeavor to try and reach out to new people through Facebook groups, through direct messages, through Twitter, whatever. But I don't want to overwhelm folk. So if there's people you know who are looking to do reviews of our games, or look to get into reviewing, or are looking to have their voice in a unique capacity out there, we'd love to hear from them. Just because there's so many amazing voices out there, and a lot of people don't necessarily get the opportunity to start on those passion projects, on those hobby projects, and we want to help enable that. So that's sort of my plug of like, hey, you got people? I want to hear from them. Ooh. What's my favorite part about working for Japanime for the last few months? That is a good question. Put me on the spot there. Well, let's take a moment. If you don't know who I am, again, my name is Jackson Wood. I actually got my start on the retail side of things. I had come back from Japan. I was living there for a while, and nobody would give me a job. And this lovely man in Colorado, what I decided to move back to because I had family there and a variety of other reasons, wonderful man named Carl, for Carloquins out in Colorado gave me a job through a friend of mine and through Carl. And I started working for him for a good while, and eventually, due to a lot of stuff that was going on in Colorado, just because of how things worked out, Carl didn't want to do it anymore. He wanted to retire. And the community was so important to me that I bought the business from him and ended up making it grow and doing a variety of things. And then I got scouted, saying, hey, you need to apply to this marketing job because of the cool stuff you're doing. And so I actually got my start working for a miniatures company up in Seattle. And it's been a great ride altogether. But my favorite thing about Japanime, I know that was long-winded, I just kind of wanted to give like an overview of like, hey, I've been in the industry for a while. I had a weird origin. My favorite thing is the people I get to work with. Eric and Heather are amazing. Our warehouse team is phenomenal. Maisie, who is our translator, is an absolute delight to work with. I definitely miss conventions as part of my job. The virtual conventions have been interesting. I really love a lot of the IPs that we're picking up that I can't talk about yet. We've actually made a really big surge on a lot of new IPs that we've managed to get a handle on. So we have a lot of games that are actually entering design right now. And some of those games are internal. So that part's really cool. And actually getting to work on the development side, which is something I did when I was at the miniatures company as well, is one of my favorite things to do. I love marketing, I love getting to talk to you all, and I love getting to actually create these more intimate, connections with people online and in person, where it's like, hey, like, I actually get to know you, and we can break down that barrier between publisher and customer and have an actual friendship in addition to those things. But getting to work on games is also like a fun side effect, especially if you ever get the opportunity or want to work in the gaming industry. You don't have to be a developer or a designer to necessarily work on games, and you will get to sort of have that osmosis. So I really appreciate that question. And I'll kind of ask you, like, what is your favorite thing that you have seen come from us recently? Like, is it a live stream? Is it a product? Is it a thing that we did? Like, there's all sorts of really cool stuff. I like to see all of the reviews that come out. Like, Dyson... Where did it just go? I don't want to mess up their name, because I actually like them a lot. They're really cool people. Get out of here, post. Dyson Dragons. So, Jason Deere. I've loved all the covers they've been doing on Cowboy Bebop. I really love our Cowboy Bebop game. It's probably one of my favorite deck builders right now, outside of, things like Slay the Spire or Monster Train. If you've been playing those games lately. Whew! Monster Train really, really fills me with anxiety sometimes, that game. Especially in the multiplayer. I am not fast enough. I get some analysis paralysis sometimes. But yeah, that's probably the big one. Again, please keep asking questions. It helps me sort of fill the space instead of just being like, listen to me marketing talk. I want to actually have engaging conversations, even if there's only a few of you. We don't do this a lot. I'd like to do this more. I'd like to do a lot more live streams, but it isn't something I always get the opportunity to do, especially given all the other stuff on our plate. We got a lot of things that are going into production in a variety of different capacities. I think you roll. I like to show off the stuff that we're doing behind the scenes. Like, I may not necessarily give you the exact answers to things, as I've said, but giving you an idea and getting to see what we do on the back end is stuff that I enjoy. I also love doing the graphic design work that I get to do. You may not have seen it because we're doing a really low budget for it right now, but I got to do a fun graphic design mock-up for playmats, and I got to use all of the Dominus stuff, so Prelaya and Miraris. I gotta use those playmats, and they look really cool. And I might be able to link them in chat later as something to look at. Just a real quick snippet, After Effects kind of thing. But it was a lot of fun. Yeah, that bundle, the what is it? I don't know what the correct word for it is. The 3-in-1 bundle is really cool. I got to see that before I was hired by the company when Eric was interviewing me, because we actually live about 15 minutes from each other, which is kind of funny. there's a whole story on that. Like, I never think I do well in interviews, and then here I am. But that specifically, Eric invited me over for a game night, and I had already thought that I had failed the interviews, and it was myself and Chemo and Eric, and we actually sat down to play Core Connection before Core Connection came out, because Eric's like, it's been a while since I've played this game. I tried it when it was in pre-production, and now that it's produced, it's been some time since I actually got to see this game. Let's learn this game. So I got to see that and the anthology. As the words come back to me, the dominant anthology together on that table. We also played Love Formula, which is a fun little drafting game. If you like card drafting stuff, drafting being one of my favorite formats or gameplay styles. Hopefully I'm going to get to play a game called Res Arcana tonight. I've been waiting to play it for a while, but I have not had a chance, given everything. But it's really cool. And I'll kind of posit the question back as I'm talking about other stuff. Like, what is the stuff that you are excited to see coming out? What things are you speculating about that you think we might have in the works that I can either throw some more fuel onto to, get you more excited, or sort of tease some stuff? We've been doing the character teases for Tokyo Sidekick, and I feel like I have a sneeze coming on. And I don't know how interesting those have been for you. It's one of my favorite things. I love the world that Emmy has put together for Tokyo Sidekick. Their love of American comics is so apparent in what they do. Like, again, the teaser today was for James Kiritani, who is effectively the Alfred of the world, is this older gentleman who is half British, half Japanese butler, who used to be a GT racer in Germany, which, if you've never seen German rally car racing, that stuff is so intense. They'll basically, make a hard right in, 0.1 kilometers, and they're going somewhere between, for American, 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, if not more. They are amazing. That stuff is so cool to watch. But just to see stuff like that, or yesterday's Haikyuu spoiler. We did a spoiler for Chamaru at the start of the week, mostly because a guy was talking about Deepwater. They showed off Peanut, who is Jacob's amazingly fluffy dog. I love that dog so much. That dog is so lovely. And reminds me of my buddy Jordan's dog. I think that Eric actually got to see Magical Bakery, if it's the same game I'm thinking of, at Tokyo Games Market last year. I know I've been peeling through that footage that him and Maisie put together in hopes that we can do a seminar about it at one of the conventions we're going to. I don't know what Gun and Gun is, though. I'll have to ask Eric about that or see what that is. I know there's a couple of things that we're looking to localize. We worked with Lion Wing on Testament, as we talked about, and they have a really cool project that I know I'm backing, even though they are competition to a capacity, but Japan has so many cool games these days. I lived there, in terms of history, I lived there between 2008-ish to 2011. I was living in Kanazawa, and I had no idea what the board game scene was then. I actually wasn't even in board games then. I was just a bartender. I was running bars. And mostly skateboarded, which is also a weird thing that people don't do too often there, from what I have learned. Oh, thank you, Roll. I was going through and posting in places, and you posted in the Facebook group that I didn't. So I appreciate that. We're getting closer to me talking about Tokyo Sidekick incessantly for a while. So why don't we jump into that? Again, ask me your questions. Both of you have been great. I know you may not necessarily have a ton of questions, but I will do my best to answer them if you do have questions. So let's talk about Tokyo Sidekick. And I want to hear all of your questions about Tokyo Sidekick, what you're curious about, what you want to know, what you were excited to see with it. I know some people have seen it in Japan already, because it's pretty dope. I've actually got the rule book in front of me to talk about. It's been a little bit since I've actually got my hands on it. But Tokyo Sidekick. It is a game by Yusuke Emi. I have not met or talked to Yusuke Emi myself, but Maisie has done a lot of that. Maisie is our translator, as I mentioned, over in Japan. I am so appreciative to get to work with her. Just phenomenal. Like, amazing human being. That's part of the best part about Japanime games is we have such a wonderful crowd that follow us, such as yourselves. We have a phenomenal staff. I am so grateful for the people I get to work with. But Tokyo Sidekick, it is a cooperative superhero-style board game for 2 to 4 players. It is cooperative, so you can play by yourself, playing 2 sets of characters. You get to pair your favorite hero and sidekicks together in any combination you want. While they have suggested pairings, like Samurai Man and Alpha Kid, that doesn't mean that you have to play with that pairing. You can do whatever kind of pairings you want. So you could absolutely take James Kiritani with Samurai Man, or James Kiritani with Melty Sweet. All sorts of stuff. I'm not going to give you all the spoilers about it, but I will talk a little bit. It is a deck building style game, but it's got this cool twist of you get to choose how many cards you discard at the end of your turn. So you set up the board, it's all basic stuff to start. You get to pick what menace or big bad, like the biggest evil out there. And then once you work through a certain number of incidents and supervillains, so villains and supervillains, 2 and 2, then the menace will show up. All the while, a bunch of things are happening around Tokyo. So that's like a really cool aspect of like, hey, villains are doing stuff and there's things happening. But you gotta have your hero, you gotta have your sidekick, they work together in whatever capacity you want. There are 2 heroes that may not be chosen at the start of the game, which we'll preview next week. But there are some villains that turn heroes, similar to what you can think with Catwoman, or there's so many good opportunities for that. Like even Sinestro from Green Lantern did that at one point. All sorts of stuff. But you'll get your player board. It's got a bunch of basic actions that everyone gets to do. You start wherever their home turf is, and then you take 3 of each of the starter energy cards. So you're going to start with 9 cards altogether. The rest don't get used. And then you take 1 level 2 energy card that matches your specialty. So there's power heroes, there's speed heroes, and there's concentration heroes, which is that PSC in the blue, red, and green that you might have seen on those character boards. Or on those character cards that we showed off at one point. And we'll kind of show off more of those, because I'm sure a lot of you are like, I want to know what they do. And so as you're solving incidents around Tokyo, you'll have built your deck, your starting deck of 10 cards, those 3 of each, so the 3 red, 3 blue, and 3 green cards, the power, speed, and concentration, then your 1 specialty card. You'll shuffle all those up and you'll draw 5, as you would with most deck builders. That's going to get you started. Then you're going to choose what menace you want to face. So you actually get to sort of choose which one of the big bads you want to fight with. You actually get to set the difficulty to some extent. There's normal, hard, and nightmare based on which of the menaces you want to face. Hey Mitch, thanks for asking about that. We've talked about that. I'll come back to the Tokyo Sidekick stuff going forward. I'm just going to kind of interject questions as they go. The answer is yes. There is absolutely a chance that we're going to do mobile ports. Right now, we're not doing Heart of Crown. Heart of Crown is on sale on the Steam store for the current summer sale. It's 50% off, so if you've been looking at Heart of Crown Digital, now is the time to get it. That was done with Culture Select. We are bringing things in-house going forward, which is Japanime Digital. It is our imprint. We're saying that for other people, not just you, Mitch. In case people don't know. With the Tanto Kure Kickstarter, because of the outpouring of support for a lot of that money is going towards the development of Tanto Digital, But we committed to doing Tanto on mobile as well. And so that's going to be something that's going to be upcoming. We've also already announced that we're going to do Kamigami after Tanto. And then there is a very good likelihood that we're going to bring another number of other games to the digital platform, depending on where we can find the time to put those into the schedule. Development costs, all sorts of things like that are going to be factors in actually producing those games. But yes, we do want to put more things out on digital and mobile platforms. And not every game that goes digital will have a mobile counterpart, but they are things we're looking at. I know a number of people have been looking at Switch options, and while that is something we want to do, again, it takes time. Yeah, of course. Again, ask your questions. That's what this AMA is for. Like, again, if you haven't hung out with me before, I will answer every question honestly, even if that answer is, hey, I can't talk about that right now, but here's why, or here's what I can talk about. I don't really care to shy away from those questions because I want to give you all a good experience. Again, there's not many of you watching, but I want to answer your questions. So we're just talking about Tokyo Sidekick. I was kind of giving an overview of gameplay. There is discussion of crossplay. The development team that is working on it has to figure out exactly how that works. I don't know what the final product is going to be in that capacity, but it is something that has been talked about. A lot of that has to do with platforms communicating with each other, and so we have to just make sure. I know some developers have done it. Again, this is our first foray into it. We don't know what those costs are. We don't know what that time is going to take, but it is something that is currently being discussed. So that you can play on your preferred platform. I know I've been playing a lot of Legends of Runeterra lately, and I typically do that from my desktop, and my housemate does it from mobile, and we play together, you know, once or twice every so often. But it is something that, like, I want to see. It's just a matter of how reliably we can make that work. Like, if there is an opportunity to be able to get people to play something on a platform, we want to do it, because that means more people looking at our stuff. So usually if the answer is no, there's a lot of factors as to why, and we may not necessarily be able to talk about them because of any number of reasons. So, talked about that. Going back to Tokyo Sidekick. Again, so you got your starter deck. You get a bunch of things going on. Each hero has a gadget that you can give to your sidekick. There's different levels of ability cards. There's 1, 2, and 3. There's amazing duo cards, which are going to give you bonuses when you go and fight incidents or villains together. You will spend experience from accomplishing tasks to upgrade your heroes. So you'll be able to upgrade their abilities, buy new cards, gives you all sorts of fun stuff like that. And so I'm just going to go through the list of the heroes. Some you have seen, some you have not seen. But we have Samurai Man, we have Grey Rabbit, which we saw the other day, and we have Oni and Melty Sweet. So those are the ones that you've seen so far. The ones you haven't seen yet, but you're going to get to see. Which, the names aren't going to mean much to you, but like, you're going to see we have Sneak Kiss, Cyber Tengu, Sonic Shadow, and Elec Armor, as well as Kaguya Girl. So those are the heroes that are coming. For all of the sidekicks, we have Alpha Kid, Chamaru, James Kirotani, Kevin Parks, Smoothie Bear, and Haikyuu. You've seen all of them so far. The few that you haven't seen yet is Eau de Glamour, or Eau de Glamour. I am terrible with French words. Haruki Takamura, and Vanilla Girl. So those are the sidekicks you have coming up. The objective of the game, as I said, beat 2 villains, beat 2 supervillains, get the attention of the menace, and bring down the menace. That's your goal. You will lose the game if the destruction gauge on the map reaches 15. There's a damage card deck. If that runs out, you don't lose as soon as the deck runs out. You lose if you can't draw any cards from it. or a red incident, because there's different incidents that pop up. If a red one gets a second burn token placed on it. And there's also some other ways to lose based on things that are going on, but you got that. Again, it's cooperative. You are working together. You do this over the course of 3 phases, which is standby, action, and end. Cards have costs, so it might be energy, it might be a variety of different things, it might cost you experience. It could be a passive ability that has no costs. You use the energy cards in your hand to pay the energy cost shown on the abilities you want to use. So it's kind of like how the hand effect is going to work. There's going to be effects on the cards. You get to finalize your action, and then you go from there. But every hero is different. They all have specialties that they work on. But again, just because they have a specialty doesn't mean that you can't use energy for other attacks, because they work differently again. So, like, I'm going to bring up Samurai Man's card. And let me see. Let me throw this up. It's going to move some things around. Don't mind me as I just adjust. Whoop. Move my camera. I'm just going to add Samurai Man's card. Once I pull it up, it might be too big when I do, so bear with me for a moment. That's not what I want. All my files are all over the place. Cool. I'm just bringing it up over everything else right now. Then we're going to shrink it down. So we're just going to put it next to me. Going to kind of overlap a little bit. But again, ask me your questions while we're hanging out. So we got Samurai Man up. And so you can see that he's got a bunch of different abilities there. It's kind of hard to see because it's got that like extra picture in there. But it costs different experience to actually buy some of these abilities. But he's got a blue ability at the top. He's got so that's a skilled ability. He's got a concentration ability, and he's got a powered ability. And so he's got all this stuff, and he has a skill, so he gains X attack, where X is the number of energy cards he used for that attack, which is really cool. And then down next to his name, Samurai Man, his specialty is power, which you can see there. And he starts in Nihonbashi. And so that's what a character card will look like. You'll put that on your player board in addition to the sidekick. And those are your starting abilities that you'll get to work with. And every hero has stuff like that. They're all different, but they all start like that. And then on the opposite side, you have the sidekicks who have a skill of some kind. So like Alpha Kid doesn't cost anything for them to take the assemble action, which is one of the actions you'll be able to take once we talk more about that. And they have a gadget slot. So each hero can give their sidekick a gadget that is unique to them. And so that part's really cool to me. Again, for that like cooperative aspect of play. Just kind of going through things. So fighting together, which is the amazing duo stuff. When they fight together, you get a bonus, which is pretty cool. And so there's that. But in turn, you're going to get to move. You can draw extra cards. You can get rid of cards you don't want. You'll be able to attack. You'll be able to interact and resolve incidents that are popping up, which will give you experience. You can shatter defense for enemies, so sometimes you might have to figure out how you have to actually tackle an enemy before you can actually fight them. Everybody who is participatory in attacks gets benefits out of it, so you're not punished for not being the one to bring them down. As long as you are participating, you're going to get something, which is really cool. You can wipe out health, so you can defeat them. You can launch attacks. There is a place for, similar to Arkham Asylum in the Batman universe, where you get to lock up villains and just keep them out of the game. You can assemble, which we talked about briefly. You can upgrade, so there's a secret organization known as Good, similar to S.H.I.E.L.D., and they will give you ways to upgrade your characters. So there's a power-up board, you'll get to choose one of several options, and you're going to pay the corresponding amount of experience to upgrade your character. So that part's really cool. You can gain higher level energy cards, which allow you to pay for more attacks. So as long as you have the energy to pay for attacks, kind of like currency, you can do it multiple times. Again, giving gadgets, really cool. You can learn new skills, which are shown on your board. You can, similar to My Hero Academia, which is the most direct comparison superhero Japan. You know, it's the big one. You can limit break your starting specialty, so you can do something with that that's really cool. Or as they say, go play, you know. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to get in trouble. I just like to talk about comparisons because the world is rife with inspiration all over the place. So we got that going. That's kind of the general ideas, like, put your heroes together, you're going to go around Tokyo, you're going to deal with incidents, villains, you're going to get experience, you're going to get to level those characters up. You get to play cards on both your heroes and your sidekicks to make them do things. And then, you know, eventually you'll fight the menace, and if you take them down, you'll win. So there's all sorts of stuff there. Everybody's got skills, everybody's got a bunch of different stuff. There's a bunch of symbols that relate to stuff. We'll show more of this off as we start getting copies out to reviewers and otherwise. But again, every hero plays very differently, which is really cool. Because, again, every game's going to be different. Like, one game you might want to play Samurai Man, another game you might want to play Great Rabbit. All of the American-style comic book influence is phenomenal to see. If my excitement does not translate well, I apologize, because I am stoked for this. But again, please ask questions. I'm not seeing a lot of things in the chat. Again, there's not a lot of you. This will be posted up later for everyone else, so if you missed it, welcome in, 45 minutes in. Hey, Colin. I'm glad that you're very excited about it. I'm very excited about it. All sorts of stuff. I'm just kind of going through, seeing if I missed anything. Talked about all the heroes and all the villains. Well, we didn't talk about the villains. We talked about all the heroes and the sidekicks. This is an import. So again, this game was designed by Yusuke Emi in Japan. This game can play 2 to 4 people. So technically you can play it solo. If you play 2 pairs of heroes and sidekicks, it's balanced around that. It does not have a solo player mode. But 2 to 4. We have been doing the translation for this game, so this is a game that was already developed, and we're going to be publishing it under Japanime Games and bringing it to a wider audience. But it is available in Japan. People have played this game, but that doesn't mean that sorry, I got distracted by something. Not everybody can speak Japanese, and my Japanese is terrible these days, so I could not. Like, I've read through the rulebook in Japanese, I've seen that copy, I could read about half of it. I am nowhere near as good as I used to be. But it's pretty straightforward, which I love. It is huge. I actually have a picture somewhere in here. So many pictures, all over the place. All over the place, everywhere. Those are just pictures of Eric with uncut sleeves or uncut sheets for Tanto, which doesn't help anybody. Alright, cool. I want to bring this up. I'm just going to layer a bunch of stuff on my screen because I'm a monster and I don't really care right now. Come here, image. So I'm popping this up. I'm going to put it over Samurai Man right now. So this is a picture of Eric when he visited China a while back with some friends to go visit our manufacturer. And as you can see in their hands, they've got Gloomhaven. When's it going to pop out? Waiting for the delay. Because I realize you are getting everything from me. We have Gloomhaven and Madara, and those are big boxes. If you've seen the Gloomhaven box, like, that's not a small box. So Tokyo Psychic is easily the biggest game that's come out of Japan. It is not a small box. It's a big one, and that's another reason why we wanted to bring this game to American audiences, because you don't typically see games of this size from Japan. So going back to something I talked about earlier in the stream, where like I didn't even know about Japanese board games at the time when I lived there, it's really cool to see something like this. Like, this box is no small thing. It has a lot of components, yes. As I, like, jump from thing to thing. So if you go to our website, which I'm going to link in the chat for you all as well, if you haven't yet, there is a landing page that you can follow that'll take you to the Kickstarter as well. Just gotta post it. There is one discrepancy, which is that there's actually only 40 standees, not 42, because 2 get used again for reasons. Game board is big. Like, it's a big game board. There's a ton of stuff inside of it. It comes with a ton of standees. There's actually going to be acrylic standees as an upgrade option as well. So if you love that part of what we've done, we love doing the acrylic standees. We're going to have that coming with it. Yeah, it's a big box. So I'm just going to drop that image. Boop, get out of here. It has a lot of stuff. That is exactly a good question. Like, why is it so big? Ton of pieces. A ton of pieces. So, getting notes about other stuff going on. Are the 2 getting censored? I don't know what that means. Gotta be specific with your questions. Are the 2 what? If you give me that clarity, DJ, I'd happily answer your question. But I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about yet. And with this stream delay, I probably won't know for a little bit. So I'm kind of going to ramble on. It is a typo. That is really all it is. There are 2 characters that do not start out as heroes in the game. You actually have to beat them first in some capacity. We talked about it earlier, sort of like a Catwoman or Sinestro or other, villain becomes a hero. Part of it. So it's going to have, like, again, that very, like, cinematic. So it's just the overlap of you don't get 2 unique standees for them being heroes or villain. No, it's all good. No apologies needed. That's part of why I was saying, like, hey, I said this earlier. It's mostly for my posterity, because this will get recorded and then put up on YouTube with a bunch of links later, like the ones that I'm linking right now. So it's just by, like, hey, in case you are skipping around in the recorded video, here's where I talked about stuff. I can't talk about the cost on Kickstarter right now, and the only reason I can't talk about the cost on the Kickstarter is I actually don't know. I don't know what it costs off the top of my head. And I don't have access to the Kickstarter page to give you an idea. I wish I could. That's something that we will likely reveal next week. I gotta talk with Eric about it, just because I know that question has come up more than once, and I would love to give people an idea. I could tell you it's definitely not Gloomhaven cost, so you don't got to worry about that. It's not that high of a price. Because, again, it's not coming with all those really cool miniatures. It's not coming with all that extra stuff that Gloomhaven might. We like to make sure that our games give you a good value for the game. I myself, I love miniatures. I'm still painting up my Cowboy Bebop miniatures. I want to show those off at some point. Mostly because I'm a sucker for painting. Yeah, any other questions you have about Tokyo Sidekick, let me know. I want to make sure that I can answer questions. Or other games, like... That is a good question, Roll. That is something that I can't talk about further right now, for reasons. Those reasons mostly have to do because that's in Eric's arena. And those are things that he is doing. Miniatures aren't cheap, which is a hard part of that conversation. Again, my first foray into the gaming industry was working for a miniatures company, and the miniatures company actually did promotion or production internally for a lot of stuff, both metal and resin. Plastic was the only thing that we didn't do internally. So, and even then I knew what those costs were, and it's not small. How are things going with the Tanto Kickstarter? It's about to wrap up. I don't know what that means, Roll. At least by reading it. My day is almost over, Liz. I want to know what that means now. I'm really excited about it. Tanto Kickstarter is great. Again, it was one of our... Oh, okay. Oh, I love the Italian Charter. When I first started playing War Machine and Hordes, I was a Protectorate player. I'm still a Protectorate player. I still play pretty regularly with a friend of mine here in Portland, Oregon, when things are going to be more safe to actually do that stuff. But to DJ's question, Tanto Kickstarter was one of our most successful. Things are working along. The Pledge Manager is actually ending on June 30th, so 4 days from now. So if you haven't finished your pledges, now is the time. That way we can get our final numbers, make sure that we know what our numbers need to be for the limited edition, because we want to make sure that we have extra copies in case there are shipping issues or things like that. We want to make sure that we can actually fix a problem if you were to receive a faulty copy for whatever reason. But it's going swimmingly. We have all of the files in with the manufacturer, so that was one that we had prepared earlier as per the delay on the Kickstarter, which is why it came when it did. And so we were ready to go with that stuff. A lot of that funding is going towards the digital development, which is also moving ahead swimmingly. So, as you roll, there is no judgment on what you want to play. Play the things you enjoy playing. I'm pretty sure as far as War Machine and Hordes has gone, I have owned pretty much every faction, and I had participation in That's a good question, DJ. Again, we're just going off of what the final numbers are, and then doing our safety net of about 10% extra production, just so that we can make sure that everyone's taken care of. So, if it ends up at 1,000, yeah, unpaid. If it ends up at 1,000, then we're just going to put on that extra tack just to make sure that if anything goes wrong, we can actually replace those things. Because it would be really goofy to be like, there's 1,000 of them made, and oh, your copy got busted? Sorry, we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that you're taken care of. If you haven't seen it as well, there's also another Gleam giveaway for a totally different set of uncut sheets that the factory sent us. We didn't know they were going to send them to us, and then they showed up. And so we're like, well, why don't we just give these away? And give the other thing away. That'll be ending on the 30th as well. So that link will be posted in the YouTube video later if you don't have it now. But we just wanted to make sure that everybody who participated with that Kickstarter actually got a copy, because we know if you are on the other side, let's say you came in on the last day, you didn't know that this Kickstarter was going on at all. You're like, oh, 1,000 of them have already been spoken for. You'd be pretty bummed out if you didn't get the chance for it. So we wanted to make sure that if we did go over that number, we could take care of everyone. But yeah, I'm really excited for Tokyo Sidekick coming up. I wanted to just spend some time with people and say, hey, like, it's Friday, let's hang out for a while. Let's chit-chat about all of the cool things that are happening. I'm just going to reach back here, don't mind me, to grab my water. It's real hot today out here. But we're at the hour, but I'm sure you've all got some more questions. So go ahead and ask me a few more questions. I'll hang out for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to get back to doing some other work stuff, and then I'll do a recap of just all the stuff we talked about in this video. And then when it goes to get published later, there'll be timestamps on like all of the topics that I talk about, so that when you go to rewatch it, you can just click and go back. I try to do these kinds of live streams every so often, especially when we do new products. We are not doing anywhere near, like, again, really good friends with the Deepwater folk, L over there. They do amazing things. They do so much stuff. They are streaming many, many hours a day, every day of the week, which I don't have the time to do that. It's just not realistic for me. But I like to do this stuff because I'd like to actually talk with you all. And so if you want to chat with me, you can always hop on our Discord channel if you aren't already. I usually am lurking in there. It may say that I'm offline. That's just so that I'm actually focusing on work and not just chatting with you all day long. Because I have to do things. I have to actually make stuff happen. I have to talk to people and push things around, as goofy as that sounds. But thank you for being here with me. Like, I could sit here and talk forever, but it's not as fun without all of you. So, I'm gonna drop the Samurai Man picture for now, just because we don't need that covering up my lovely face. But yeah, ask some questions, let me know what you're thinking, what you're excited about. Tell me what games you've been playing lately that you love, what games you're excited to see. It doesn't just have to be Japanime game stuff. This industry is so full of amazing people, be it publishers or reviewers or content creators, manufacturers. Like, there's a ton of amazing people who make this industry happen in any part of the way. And I love sharing my experiences and the things that I do and just spending my time with all of you. Because, as I said earlier, I started on the retail side. Like, I worked in a retail store, I ended up buying the retail store, then I moved into the production side of things. But what started it all for me was community. And the gaming community is one of the best that I've ever had the joy of being in. Like, if you play online games, you know that a lot of people can be toxic and frustrating, and it sucks. And that can happen in our industry too, but you get a lot more people who are actually here because they want to sit down and play games. And so, my big takeaway, even though, like, this is a marketing thing, this is my way to say, hey, look at all the cool stuff we do, let's talk. Obviously, like, I want you to be participatory in what we do. But I want you all to be happy, and I want to make sure that we get the right products in the right people's hands. And it doesn't matter if you like Monopoly or Scrabble or King of Tokyo or Gloomhaven or Spirit Island. Whatever your level of complexity that you want to play, there's no wrong answer. So no matter what you take away from this stream, I hope the thing that you take away, most importantly, outside of me just talking about all the stuff we do, is this sense of community, and this sense that everybody is, like, anybody who wants to play a game should be welcome at the table. Like, make sure that we're taking care of each other, make sure we're doing the right thing for each other, make sure that we're trying to make this world more inclusive and welcoming to the people who just want to sit down and play games together, because that's what it's about. Sorry, I get really appreciative about this stuff because it's really important to me. So thank you, Colin. I also really miss playing with people in real life. Like, even though Phase 1 is happening in Oregon, I'm trying to be very careful. If I wasn't exposed to people beforehand, I'm not spending time with them. I'm very strictly working from home, like, keeping exposure low, because I don't want to be the reason that somebody else gets sick or a loved one gets sick. Like, I'm ready to get playing with people, and that's why, yeah, it'll be a bit. That's why I said, like, we're trying to bring a lot of things to virtual tabletop stuff. So again, Heart of Crown's on sale on Steam. I've got Cowboy Bebop on Tabletopia for demos. We're going to try to do more stuff. I have more games coming in there. I've had some volunteers working on stuff as well, though some things got goofed up, so I got to go back and fix them. But we're trying to make more of our games available to you online, so that you can play the games that you love by us with people you love. But point is, no matter what your game level is, no matter what kind of games you love, we want to spend time with you. We want to talk to you. And we want to make sure that you are getting the right game for you. Like, I love Spirit Island. That's awesome, roll. And if you want to talk about that stuff later, like, I might be able to, like, do some cool stuff for you. I can't promise that I can, but I might be able to do something. I know I'm going to be reaching out to all of those retailers in about a month, so about mid-July, I guess less than a month now, just to see how those packages did and what they're doing with them and what cool stuff they might do, because I want to highlight these stores. I want to talk about what we can do better for them. I really want to make it an experience that works well for everybody. So that's kind of the big stuff right now. Any parting questions? I'm going to give it about 5 to 10 more minutes, just so I can make sure that if you have some burning questions about products that we have upcoming, projects that we've done, whatever it might be, I can get those questions out there. I love that there wasn't more than a couple questions that I couldn't answer. Just like, hey, I can't really say too much, but, you know, there are some plans with that. But I'm really happy with the bundle we got to do. I am so appreciative to work for Eric. If you've never met Eric, he is easily, and this isn't just me being like, wow, my boss. Like, I love Eric. As I said, I didn't even think I had this job when I first got started. I was lucky that I actually got to interview with Eric directly. And after the first interview, I thought I blew it. And so we had this nice lunch. I thought I blew it. He invited me over for games. Like, Eric actively cares about people. That's why we've done all of the donation-based stuff we've done for the two big ones right now. Like, it is Pride Month. And so, like, again, take care of one another, celebrate the diversity that we have, and, like, help lift each other up. Eric donated a ton of money to local organizations here in Oregon, out in the Boston area, all over the place, because, again, it's a big deal. We've given money to the ACLU earlier this month for, you know, Black Lives Matter, because that's something that we believe in. So again, I'm just kind of like talking about the stuff we're doing. For us, it's all about the community, and we want to make sure, like, yes, we are a publisher, but we care about you all. We love seeing you at shows. It's at least once a week that Eric is like, oh, I'm getting so much done that I wish I was going to shows right now. Like, I'm in the same boat. It really sucks that we can't see each other, but it's also important that we don't get each other sicker, because we need to make sure that everybody we know going into this is going to be there at the table when we come out of this. Because I do not know how broken up I would be if all of you people that I get to talk to like this or otherwise, I'll see you at a show. Break my heart. And nobody wants that. But I'm going to probably do another live stream in a week or two. Especially if we're doing, like, if Tokyo Sidekick is launched. I might be doing one that day. It's something we'd like to do. We did that for the Alternate Souls Kickstarter, and I thought that was a lot of fun. So we'll probably do that again. But reach out to me on social media. Reach out to me on Discord. Let's chat. If you have games questions, I'm always able to look at the rules or talk to the designers and say, hey, you know, what did you mean by this? There's no errata for it. There's no rule clarification. So, trying to think of anything else that might be going on. But I think that's a good place to wrap up. All of my love to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me, even if you were just sitting and lurking and you'd ask questions. Hopefully you feel that you can ask questions. And until then, see you, Space Cowboys. Let's get out of here.